Capital One Arena is entering one of the most important periods in its history, and for the Washington Wizards, the timing is hard to ignore. The team is rebuilding on the court, while its home arena is being rebuilt around it. In downtown Washington, D.C., the building that opened in 1997 as MCI Center is now going through an $800 million plus transformation designed to keep the Wizards and Capitals in the city long-term, modernize the fan experience, and give one of the NBA's older downtown arenas a much different future. Monumental Sports says the full project includes more than $800 million of new investment, with the District of Columbia and Monumental both playing major roles in the funding structure. For the Wizards, Capital One Arena has always been more than a basketball venue. It sits in the Chinatown and Penn Quarter area of Washington, close to Gallery Place, transit, restaurants, museums, offices, and the city's political core. That location has long been one of the arena's biggest strengths. It is not an isolated suburban building surrounded by parking lots. It is a downtown arena built into the city, with foot traffic, metro access, and the ability to pull fans into the neighborhood before and after games. According to Capital One Arena's own history, the privately financed building opened on December 2, 1997, and has hosted more than 47 million people and over 4,500 events since opening. The arena currently lists seating capacity at 20,356 for Wizards games and 18,506 for Capitals games. But a good location does not automatically solve the problems of an aging building. By modern NBA standards, Capital One Arena had reached the point where renovation was not really optional. The concourses, premium areas, back-of-house spaces, entrances, locker rooms, food areas, and general circulation all needed serious work. Fans who have been there over the years know the building can feel tight, especially during sold-out games and major events. Older arenas can still have character, but they also run into practical issues: crowded walkways, long lines, outdated clubs, older seating, and building systems that were designed for a different era of sports entertainment. That is why this project is being treated less like a cosmetic refresh and more like a major reworking of the entire arena. The plan is not simply to put new screens in the building, repaint a few areas, and call it finished. The transformation is expected to touch the event level, fan areas, premium seating, entrances, exterior design, concessions, and the connection between the arena and surrounding Gallery Place space. The Washington Post reported that the project is planned as a 3-year, $800 million renovation, with the first major phase focused heavily on the event level. That means some of the earliest improvements are not the flashiest for fans, but they matter heavily for the players, coaches, staff, and daily building operations. One of the biggest changes is the work being done for the Wizards and Capitals behind the scenes. The two teams are getting new locker rooms that are each roughly twice as large as the spaces they previously used. The improvements also include new training and recovery rooms, a film room, and a player's family lounge. These are the types of upgrades that do not always show up in a highlight video, but in the NBA, they absolutely matter. Player facilities are now part of recruitment, retention, and overall team operations. Modern athletes spend enormous amounts of time in these buildings, and if the Wizards are trying to build a more professional, competitive environment, the arena's internal spaces need to reflect that. The fan-facing changes are expected to become more visible as the project moves forward. Planned improvements include wider concourses, expanded concession options, a 40% increase in the number of restrooms, new blue seating, a new sound system, and a new scoreboard. Those are important changes because Capital One Arena's issues were not only about age, they were also about flow. A modern arena has to move people more efficiently. It needs to reduce bottlenecks, shorten lines, and give fans more options once they are inside. When you are dealing with a building that hosts Wizards games, Capitals games, Georgetown basketball, concerts, family shows, and major one-off events, efficiency becomes part of the overall experience. There is also a major exterior component to this project. Monumental Sports has promoted the transformed arena as a building with a much stronger presence from the street. The plan includes a new atrium entranceway and an updated exterior that is meant to feel more iconic than the existing facade. The Associated Press reported that officials celebrated the beginning of the $800 million downtown arena renovation in December 2024, with work connected to a new Capital One Arena Gallery Place atrium. The project is scheduled to be fully transformed in time for the 2027-28 NBA and NHL seasons. That atrium matters because one of the biggest goals is to change how fans enter the arena. The current building can sometimes feel like it is absorbing crowds through narrow access points. The new design is intended to create a more open arrival experience, with Gallery Place becoming more integrated into the arena itself. According to the Washington Post, the Gallery Place building is expected to house Monumental's administrative offices, box office, and security operations, while also featuring a 12,000 square foot team store and a grand pavilion with multiple entrances to the arena. This is a major part of the transformation because it expands the arena experience beyond the old walls of the building. That connection to Gallery Place is also part of a much larger downtown conversation. Capital One Arena was originally credited with helping bring new activity to that part of Washington in the late 1990s. Now, nearly 3 decades later, the city is asking the building to play a similar role again. Downtown DC has faced the same pressures affecting many major urban centers: remote work, shifting retail patterns, office vacancies, and changing nightlife habits. A renovated arena cannot solve all of that by itself, but it can become an anchor. On game nights and concert nights, it brings thousands of people into the area. The city's argument is that keeping the Wizards and Capitals downtown and improving the building around them supports a broader effort to revive activity around Chinatown, Penn Quarter, and the downtown entertainment district. The public-private structure of this deal is also central to the story. The district's agreement includes the city purchasing Capital One Arena from Monumental Sports and Entertainment for $87.5 million, with that purchase price being reinvested into the project. Monumental then leases the arena back from the district under an amended and restated lease. Under the terms announced by the city, MSE is committed to staying in Washington, D.C. through 2050, with 5 renewal options of 4 years each that could extend that stay by another 20 years. The city also said the project is expected to generate an estimated 4,900 construction jobs and more than $1 billion in total estimated economic activity. That long-term lease commitment is one of the biggest outcomes of the entire saga. Before the DC agreement came together, Monumental had explored a major arena and entertainment district project in Alexandria, Virginia. That proposal would have moved the Wizards and Capitals out of downtown Washington and into a new development near Potomac Yard. For a while, it looked like the region could see one of the most significant sports relocations in recent DC history. But the Virginia plan stalled politically, and DC moved aggressively to keep the teams. By spring 2024, the Wizards and Capitals were staying in the district under the new agreement. AP reported that the DC deal followed the collapse of the planned Virginia move, which had been proposed roughly a year earlier and then fell apart in the Virginia legislature. For the Wizards specifically, that means their long-term identity remains tied to Washington, D.C. The franchise has played in multiple homes over its history, including the Capitol Center in Landover before moving downtown in 1997. The move to the arena, then known as MCI Center, was part of a major era of downtown sports development. The current transformation is different. This time, the Wizards are not getting a completely new building on a new site. They are getting a heavily rebuilt version of their existing home, in the same city center location, with the goal of making the arena feel much newer, without abandoning the urban footprint. Premium seating is another major part of the project. Modern arenas are increasingly shaped by hospitality revenue, and Capital One Arena is no exception. Monumental has announced several new premium concepts tied to the transformation, including the Blueprint Studios, which are designed as flexible, group-oriented hospitality spaces. These are expected to debut ahead of the 2027-28 season and are intended for groups of 8 or more, offering all-inclusive food and beverage, in-seat service, access to a private lounge, and other amenities. That shows where arena design is going. It is no longer only about traditional luxury suites or standard seats. Venues are trying to create layered experiences. Clubs, lounges, small group products, social decks, food halls, premium seating zones, and flexible spaces for businesses or groups that want something more elevated than a regular ticket but not necessarily a full private suite. For a building like Capital One Arena, adding those spaces is also a revenue strategy. The Wizards and Capitals need a venue that can compete not only with older NBA and NHL arenas, but with new and renovated buildings across the country that are becoming more sophisticated every year. There will also be changes to food and beverage. The Washington Post reported that future phases include expanded concession offerings and a grand food hall on the 400 level. That is important because upper-level fans are often the ones most affected by older arena design. In many buildings, the premium levels get upgraded first, while the upper bowl remains crowded and outdated. If the food hall and concourse upgrades are handled well, they could make the building feel noticeably better for fans who are not buying the most expensive tickets. The exterior design may become the most visible symbol of the project. The transformed arena is expected to include an immersive exterior veil that wraps around the building and can change color. The Washington Post described it as a modernized nod to the saddle-shaped design of the old Capitol Center, the former home of the Wizards and Capitals in Landover. That is a smart reference point because it connects the new design to regional sports history without simply copying the past. Still, this project will likely come with some disruption. Ted Leonsis himself warned that there would be a lot of dust, calling the project massive and saying it would probably take 3 seasons. The work is being staged so the arena can continue operating around Wizards and Capitals seasons, concerts, and other events. But fans should expect the building to feel like a construction zone at times. That is the trade-off with renovating an active downtown arena instead of building somewhere else. You preserve the location and avoid a complete relocation, but you also have to work around a live schedule. The timeline currently points toward completion in time for the 2027-28 NBA and NHL seasons. That matters because by then, the Wizards hope to be deeper into their own rebuild, and the arena should look significantly different from the building fans know today. The first phase is focused on the event level and internal team spaces. Later phases are expected to make the public-facing transformation more obvious through the concourses, seats, entrances, scoreboard, sound system, exterior, food areas, and hospitality spaces. For Washington, the bigger question is whether Capital One Arena can become a modernized downtown anchor again. In 1997, the original building was seen as a catalyst. In the 2020s, the challenge is different. The arena is already there. The teams are already known. The neighborhood is already built up. But the building needs to feel current, and downtown needs reasons for people to come back consistently. A stronger arena does not fix everything around it, but it gives the city a major event engine at a time when downtown activity is especially valuable. For the Wizards, the transformation creates a cleaner, long-term story. The team is not leaving. The arena is not being replaced by a suburban campus. Instead, the franchise is staying in the middle of Washington and getting a building that is being upgraded from the event level to the roof. The arena will still be Capital One Arena. It will still sit in Chinatown and Penn Quarter. It will still share a home with the Capitals and Georgetown basketball. But by the end of the project, the experience is supposed to feel much closer to a new arena than a simple renovation. And that is what makes this project important. Capital One Arena is not just being polished up for another few years of use. It is being reworked to carry the Wizards, the Capitals, and downtown DC into the next era. The building that helped define Washington sports in the late 1990s is now trying to prove it can still matter in the late 2020s. If the project delivers on its promises, the Wizards will not only have a better home, they will have a modernized downtown stage at a moment when both the franchise and the city are trying to reset their future.